Let's talk about the problem that you're trying to solve more broadly.
Yeah.
What is the core issue that you're trying to tackle?
Quite simply, far too many clothes get made every year. Overproduction is the default in the industry. It's the sacred cow, really, at the heart of the fashion industry. No one wants to address it. No one wants to talk about it. But the problem is, as a result of all of this overproduction, 1 in 3 pieces of clothing made every year goes to landfill unsold, often with the tag still on, often with holes punched through to preserve brand equity.
And that sort of intercepting of waste is also really important when it comes to climate change, because the statistics on this are quite extraordinary in terms of how much fashion waste and the fashion industry contributes to climate change. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah. So depending on which report you read, fashion is said to be the second most polluting industry on earth. But a fairly indisputable fact came out of the World Bank in 2019, which says that fashion's responsible in that year, responsible for 10% of global carbon emissions, set to rise 50% within the decade, so by 2030.
And to put that in perspective, that's more than the aviation and shipping industry combined.
Correct. 10% in 2019, going up to 15% of the global carbon budget, right? The entire planet's carbon budget, going up to 15% by the end of this decade, and then fully tripling to 30% by 2050 if nothing else changes, right? If the system just continues as it's going. And when, that's unbelievable, right, in its magnitude, and it's also completely against the Paris Accord that our government and everybody else has signed up to. And the truth of the matter is the industry is self-regulated, and they're saying a lot of good things, but very little is happening to address, combat, and really stop that wild increase in carbon. And so again, that's just what we do at Citizen Wolf is our whole position is the system needs to change.
And you're wearing one of your products, a t-shirt?
I am. So this it's a long sleeve black t-shirt made out of merino wool. So when we started the business, we had a very clear decision that we would not use any polyester. We didn't want to contribute to the problems that are created by the extraction of fossil fuels. So all of our fabrics are natural, and this merino wool is grown just southwest of Canberra. It's all Aussie. It's unbelievably beautiful. It's super fine, 17.5 microns. So it's really different to what people think. If you haven't experienced merino wool, it's really different to the kind of scratchy, itchy jumpers that you might have, been handed down from grandma or whatever. It's not that at all. It's incredibly supple on the skin. Unfortunately, it gets sent from there to China to get processed because we've lost that capacity in the Australian system to turn raw wool into yarn. So we re-import it as yarn, and then it gets knitted in Melbourne at one of the last remaining knitting factories in Australia. Because that whole, we had an onshore supply chain up until all of the tariffs were removed in the 90s, and then virtually all production went offshore. And now I believe something like only 6%, I'm going to say, that could be wrong, but it's not far off, of the clothes purchased in Australia are actually made here. So we re-import the yarn knitted in Melbourne because we fundamentally believe that we must retain what industrial capacity, what supply chain capacity we do have still. So we gladly pay much more to do it that way than if we were going to just import the fabric. And then it's cut on our laser cutter in Marrickville in our factory, based on my magic fit details. So Magic Fit is a piece of technology that we built that needs only your height, weight, age, and for women we ask bra as well. So only those 3 or 4 pieces of biometric information from which we create a mathematical model of your body, which is about 94% accurate. And then we create the clothing based on that estimate. And the way that we are able to do that is on a laser cutter. So if you've ever seen a traditional garment factory, you know, there's layers and layers and layers, like hundreds of layers of fabric kind of in a huge stack. And then they lay the marker on top, which is the standard pattern pieces, and then they use a huge jigsaw to cut it out. We don't do that. So every single thing that we make, we cut 1 layer of fabric at a time, and every single panel that comes off the laser cutter is completely custom to whichever customer ordered that shirt. And then it gets sewn in the factory in Marrickville, and that's how it arrived here. I haven't said it yet, but Citizen Wolf basically fuses made to order and made to measure, so tailoring with made to order. And we did that very consciously because whilst all of the environmental benefits accrue to made to order, so you can have standard size breaks made to order and they're just great for the planet, right? But standard size breaks fail the customer. And so when it's custom fit to your body, when the customer's getting a better product and the planet's getting a better outcome, there's this kind of beautiful marriage of selflessness on the planet side and selfishness on the consumer side. And different way of saying we use tailoring as a Trojan horse to deliver all of the environmental benefits of made to order, because you've got to wait for stuff. And the waiting that's inherent in our product is fundamentally at odds with the fashion industry, or the majority of the fashion industry, which is super quick, you know, the iconical, I could order it right now and it'll be here before I leave the museum, you know what I mean? Like, we're fighting against that in so many ways, but our arsenal is custom fit as a way to make people accept that waiting is not a bad thing. And if we make to last, and if we want your clothes to last years and years and years, not just wash cycles, then what's a couple of days on the front end, you know, waiting for that thing to be made?